Hello, I'm Iffat Nawaz. I'm a writer and a spiritual seeker, and this is the story that I want to get inked.
So, my story. I uh, I thought about what to do with 20 minutes, and I know we have a little more time to go back and forth and answer questions. But I thought I would talk a little bit about defining moments of my life, because I think that's kind of where we have these sort of the full stops or the dari comma, right? So I wanted to talk about three defining moments that sort of brought me to where I am. And I'm 40. I'm going to be 42 in less than 2 weeks. So there are lots of lots of dots in between. And of course, what story we tell is what we choose. So there are a lot of failures in my life as well as successes. And I don't necessarily look at them as the same failure, success, good and bad anymore. But here I go. So my story starts from it's Old Town Dhaka is where it starts really. I was born in Wari. I was born in a hospital, but in Dhanmondi, but grew up in Wari and then Ganderia, which is even deeper in the old town. So always very embarrassed to say it in school because where everybody came from, Bonani and Gulshan, and old town seems such a not such a posh thing, but now I just flaunt it because I know what a rich thing it was. Grew up in the shadow of the Liberation War. Amar dui chacha mara gechen যুদ্ধে, and my father was a freedom fighter. So I didn't really have a choice in this matter. I kind of had their pictures on the wall, and that was it. They were casting the shadow, and it was a beautiful thing. At the same time, it was a very heavy thing. And if I can jump to the current moment, I'm working for a long time on a novel that actually deals with this concept of growing up in our generation, including you guys, even the younger selves, of the shadow of the past and how we have sort of worn it as a cloak, and how do we get out of it. And this can be, and it's been written about in different cultures, and trying to explore a way of telling the story that's not too dark. Every time I write, it becomes very dark. Anyway, so that was sort of the the beginning. And those things in my childhood did a few things to me, and I think this can be relatable to many of our generation. It gives you this idea of heroism. I mean, people died, they were heroes, and you're the next generation. What are you doing? How are you going to be the hero? How are you proving yourself? And that sort of a thought really penetrated in very quickly. And it wasn't just me, everybody around me. Environmental consciousness, which I really believe in. The air of Dhaka was so that our parents wanted to give us everything. So we had all the tools, all the teachings, all the best schools, and everything that they could give in our middle class background, whatever it was. A beautiful time in 80s Dhaka, actually. But it also gave us a very competitive edge, a sort of proving ourselves, which we see right now. I think it has come to a fruit in a flourished, where we have a lot of very successful people, but there's also a lot of confusion of what's the right road and where, and a lot of focus on not materialism or spirituality, but somewhere in between is how I look at it. It's a very fuzzy space. We weren't taught those things to really be centered. We were taught to go get things. So we were always running after things we already had our role models. We weren't looking for them, but perhaps we could have spent more time to think about that. But we were just given what we were supposed to do. So I'll rush back to the age of 15, which was my first sort of defining moment as a teenager, but I would say it was a young adult moment, because I think teenagers are young adults. They're very defined, and I think people have sometimes the best, like the most prolific clarity when you're a teenager. So I'm going to start with a sad story, although I'm not speaking from sadness, so don't be too sad about it. So my family, part of my family, extended family, had moved to the US. Not only were we 71 Ekattur family, but we had moved from Kolkata in 47. So there are all these migrations and deaths in every partition, which split the family in two. Part of them felt like বাংলাদেশ আমাদের দেশ কি পুরোপুরি আমাদেরকে কখনো অ্যাকসেপ্ট করবে, যেটা অবশ্যই করেছে, কিন্তু আমার ফুপুরা, কয়েকজন ফুপু, একজন চাচা, they felt like they should go somewhere else. So in the 60s they had moved to US already. As a result, we all had green cards. So we had now the third country. There was an Indian background, there was a Bangladeshi heart and soul and everything, and then there was this US, the backup. So we all had green cards and we'd go back and forth in the 80s. And in 94, so I don't know if you know, every 2 years jeta hoto green card er jonno renew korte, tomra keu keu hoyto jano seta. So 94 যখন we went for a renewal, and it was a 2-month vacation, my father, who was he was 40, and a for me he was it, right? He was the hero, and we were very close. He died on the airplane between Los Angeles and Washington DC, on in front of me and my entire family. But I saw this happen, and it was that tragic defining moment that just shatters everything. And the funny thing is, now then, in retrospect, when I look back, it's a very interesting thing when you grow up with the thought of death so close, because you've seen death from your childhood. Somehow death doesn't seem like a very far away thing, and it also, you expect it almost, you want to know it, there's a curiosity. Sorry, I'm starting to talk about death, but I don't see death as a very dark thing, I guess. I just think, look at it as a truth. I'd learned to. So this happened, and that sort of made me who I am today in many ways. From sort of it. Of course, everybody says, "Oh, you're so strong," and this must have done this to you, that to you. Yes, those things happen, but when such a thing happens to a younger person, you also have a stunted growth, which we don't look at. We look at young heroes or people who really have high endurance and tolerance and have proven to be strong. When you do that at an early age, which I think is the case for our liberation war Mukti Juddhas also, some of them who were young, you actually don't mature the same way as other people do, because you've suddenly proven to be an adult in a very young age, but then all these things that would have been forming didn't form. Other things formed very fast. You have developed intuition, you've developed social skills, you've developed this confidence that just suddenly just you're like, yes, I know, this is me, I don't have anybody above me. My mom is there, but she was a very sort of sweet, nice person who never really pushed herself to the front. So I was suddenly a voice, and I really went for it, right? So that sort of was the reason I say it is a defining moment, and it had a lot of force. So it pushed me forward into the world. And on one side there was this very sort of sadness and depression I carried, not I wouldn't say it's a clinical depression or anything, but a melancholia of losing someone very close to you, the closest person to you. At the same time, I had this sort of freedom, and this confidence and this like, yeah, whatever, badassness, right? So that went on, and it sort of did many things, and we go into my 20s. So I'm gonna do each like an era story. So that was my young sort of till 10 was the shadow Vikarnisa old town. Then I had my father's death at 15, and then I'll skip to 26, 27, when by now I've had other experiences, different things, college is done, I'm at work and all of that. I started working for USAID projects, so doing a lot of at that time I didn't do any field work, but it was mostly based in DC. I lived in DC and worked from there. So a friend of mine was going to Belize. Well, the other thing I started to believe was I needed to travel. That was something that was in me from childhood. My father had taken us to many places. I couldn't afford anymore after my father's death to go places. I mean, we had to really watch our money. Suddenly from very comfortable space, we were poor, actually. So that's another thing. Like when you look at women writers, women comedians, and you compare it with male writers and comedians, somehow I find that male are more comfortable talking about their financial status. I don't know if you have noticed this as storytellers. They can say, oh, I'm so poor that da 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 da. Somehow girls have a problem with saying I'm poor. I don't know why this is, but there was not poverty, but there was definitely a sense of like, we don't have as much anymore. let's watch our money. And my mother is very calculative in this manner. My father wasn't. So it was like, even if he had some, we still didn't have enough. And there were some tough times. So suddenly when I started making money, for my own, I started to travel again. And I'd gone to Belize with a friend. So this is my second defining moment. I'll talk about the 20s, where my friend was a scuba diver. I don't even know how to swim. Most of you probably don't also, I assume. জানি না, জানতেও পারো। বাংলাদেশ ঢাকায় বড় হলে পুকুরে ঝাঁপ দেওয়ার অপরচুনিটি অনেক কম। তো যাই হোক, তো আমি কখনোই সুইমিং শিখিনি। আমার শেখার ইচ্ছা ছিল, বাট হয়নি। তো তারপর we went to Belize, which is in the Caribbean, and he was gonna go scuba dive, I was gonna go chill out by the beach. So প্রথম দিনে I met the scuba diving instructor there. And by now, Facebook is there, so you're really trying to prove who you are. Your identity is a big deal. You're putting out things, whatnot. In your 20s, you're like, yeah, this is who I am. Whatever you find cool or daring. So anyway, so আমি বলতে চাচ্ছি এই জন্য যে এতটাও হয়তো নিজের জন্য করিনি. Maybe there was some incentive of proving who I am in this next thing that I'm going to tell you. So the woman who was the dive master, the scuba diving instructor, the head woman, Karen, a South African lady, she saw me and she said, you must dive. And I was like, I don't even know how to swim. She's like, na, তুমি করবে, তোমায় পড়তে হবে, তোমার ভালো লাগবে, we'll make it happen. So তার পরের দিনে Belizeর এই জায়গাটার নাম হচ্ছে Hopkins. It's a small village and it's by the Caribbean. And ওখানে African migrants from a place called Garifuna in West Africa, ওরা travel করে এসছে অনেক দিন আগে। তো এই জায়গাটার কালচারটা খুবই ইন্টারেস্টিং। ইউ হ্যাভ দ্য Hispanic culture, and then you have this Mayan culture, and then you have this like African culture. So একসাথে একটা খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং একটা মিক্স অফ গ্রুপ, ছোট একটা ভিলেজ ফিশারম্যান। বাট ওই জায়গাটার সবচেয়ে কুল ছেলেগুলা যারা, দ্য আফ্রিকান ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড, তারা সবাই স্কুবা ডাইভ মাস্টার্স। হ্যাঁ, so they're like super fit, cool guys, and they're all like dive করছে, কোথায় 100 feet চলে যাচ্ছে, এরকম ঘটনা। তাদের মধ্যে একজন, his name is Lucky, who was a very huge God believer, and they're also very religious. হ্যাঁ, so ওরা ওই ছেলেটা আমাকে, he was my instructor. So first time, প্রথমে the second day I said, okay, I'm যাবো, but প্রথম দিনটা you have to spend it in the pool, in the deep end of the pool, yeah, with all your gear. You learn how to put the mask on and the oxygen and whatnot. And it's one of my biggest fear, water. And that was the first time I went to the deep end of the pool, like 8 feet. Oh my God. হ্যাঁ, সাথে কেউ আছে, ঠিক আছে। তার পরের দিনে it was the diving day. আর আমার বন্ধু যে আমার সাথে, he is like, yeah, I'll go with you also. Lucky, me and him will go. আমরা সব একটা ডাইভ বোটে, বাকি ডাইভাররা নেমে গেল, and we were going. The sea was extremely choppy and it was sort of cloudy, and the swells যেটা বলে প্রায় 7 feet tall ছিল সেদিন। মানে ডাইভিং করার জন্য একেবারেই ভালো দিন না। বাট আমি তো কিছু জানি না, আমি তো একটা অগা, about these things. So I'm like, এরকমই হয়, and the rest are like, কিছু বলা যাবে না, চুপচাপ, just getting there. So we get there, and then we end up we have to basically, there are two ways of jumping in. One, you like hold your mask and you flip over, or you take the giant stride, and it's like you basically just walk in. It's like, I have all the faith. And I was freaking out, of course, and it's a very uncomfortable thing to be with a big oxygen tank. You're like constantly falling, people have to like hold you, can't really walk around, it's supposed to just go in. And I was like, আমি যাবো না, আমি পারবো না, এটা কি হচ্ছে? And that guy, Lucky, he just held my shoulder and he said, do you believe you have already served your purpose in life? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I did. Like, আমি কি জানি, হয়তো হয়ে গেছে already. So he was like, okay, never mind. That didn't work as well. At that time, I never thought about purpose of life. He obviously had, a God-believing person. I believe in God, but I never, in a Muslim upbringing, we don't ever talk about purpose. Our purpose, individual purpose, so I never thought about it at that point. Anyway, so যাই হোক, somehow or other, আমার বন্ধু গেল, তারপরে লাকি গেল, they're like, আসো তাড়াতাড়ি আসো, because this, once you go under, it's calm, but উপরে তো পাগলের মতো অবস্থা। the captain of the boat, he was like, "Parle amar chul chhare oro chul chhire," you know, like ja tu ebar parle dhakka mere bar ke amake je. Somehow I ended up there, went down to the ocean, and literally my eyes popped out and my mouth was opening almost. Amar oxygen ye chole jacche. It was so beautiful. It was like as if I went into space, as if a new world opened up, you know. And I cannot even মানে ওই রকমের সাইলেন্স আমি আর কোথাও কখনো মানে এক্সপেরিয়েন্স করিনি. This one, the kind of silence where you just want to stay there, you don't want to come up, and you get the sound of the sea itself. There is this deep sound of the ocean that comes out of the, you know, the never ending falls and the waves and the pressure of the water around you. I got addicted to it. I just couldn't stop diving after that. So long story short, without knowing swimming, I jumped in. And then 3 years later, I got my open water license because I kept on going every year after that. I kept on diving every day after that while I was in this place and started traveling to different places. And then I got my swimming and ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি অনেক কিছু করতে হয়, লাইক লিখতে হয়, করতে হয়, 500টা ডাইভ করতে, মানে 500টা না, বাট অনেকগুলো ডাইভ করে দেখাতে হয়, you can do this. And that happened. So that really added এর আগে যে কনফিডেন্সটা ছিল, that was more of a unproven confidence, nothing to do with the body. It was a confidence that was to do with sort of something has happened to you, you have survived, you are resilient, and you made it, which a lot of us are familiar with that. I think all of us can say one thing at least, that we have proven our strength like that. So this was the first time where I could say that about my body, that my body listened to my mind. Before that, I didn't have that. And as a Bengali মেয়ে, এটা আমাদের খুব কমই শেখানো হয়। এখন হয়তো আরো বেটার হয়েছে জিনিসটা, কিন্তু ছোটবেলা আমি যেভাবে বড় হয়েছি, we never had that. You know, no one focused on the body that much. So that was something very interesting for me. So then I started pushing it. You know, I wanted to see what else I could tell my body to do, and my body would listen. So I ended up running a marathon after that, which was another thing I wanted to do before 30. So that was another accomplishment. Old Dhaka boro hoyechi. I'm sure all of you have been to Old Dhaka at some point. এক রাস্তাও হাঁটি নাই, এক ব্লকও হাঁটি নাই, because you know ছেলেরা ফাজলামি করছে, এই হচ্ছে সেই হচ্ছে, blah 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 blah. So that was a big one. And you know, kayaking, I really discovered climbing and hiking and all of that. So it was like this provenness of the body just opened and said, yes, I'm here. And it was this new liberation and confidence, and it was very beautiful and light. It wasn't this dark, edgy confidence. It was like I like living, you know, that kind of a confidence, because I was connected to nature and I was depending on the, you know, I started seeing that there are ways you can read what's around you. Your intuition gets better because your body and your mind are coming together. So তারপরে it really changes. So since ওই 15 বছর বয়সে যেহেতু আমি চলে গেছিলাম বাংলাদেশ থেকে, I had this very romantic idea about Bangladesh. আমার বাবা মা ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটি প্রেম করা couple, you know, they have all these romantic ideas. They completely embedded on me, you know, রমনা পার্ক ছোটবেলা, 21 ফেব্রুয়ারি ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি ইত্যাদি. So সারা জীবনই ইচ্ছা ছিল while I was in DC যে একদিন না একদিন আমি ঢাকায় আসবো, এসে থাকবো, কিন্তু সেটা করা খুব কঠিন, because you know, as our family is in US, আমি কিভাবে যাব একা একা। আমি গেছিও, থাকতেও চেয়েছি, but didn't get allowed when I was 25. So at 30 I finally made it. I got this project and I could go to Dhaka, and it was a field driven project, and I was like, আমি 3 মাসের জন্য যাচ্ছি বাংলাদেশে, you know, really gonna do this. So যাবার পরে it was like আমার কিছুই বাজে লাগছিল না, মানে আমি জানি আমি হাঁটতে পারছি না আবারও, আমার এই confidence of body and mind is with me, but I'm necessarily not practicing. The body is missing actually, because I did like organize this one run while I was in Dhaka the first 3 months. এই পথ আমাদেরও, you know, trying to claim like the street. I had all the energy in the world. I think people from outside come and like have this new energy. They always do these things না, এসে একটা ক্যাম্পেইন করে, এসে একটা কিছু করবে, চেঞ্জ করে দেবে সবকিছু, তারপর এক বছর থাকার পরে they chill out and they go on with the Dhaka flow. So I had my 1 year of doing this also Dhakate. The more I stayed in Dhaka, the more I got addicted to Dhaka. The more I couldn't have enough. And it was really in Dhaka that US raised me, but made made me a grown up, you know, which in the US I could never have grown up like that. Dhaka really taught me what a grown up means, living alone and dealing with different things, etc. So I was there for about 5 years, and then I knew I had to move back. Eka thakchilam, I was a columnist, and all these blogger things started. Chena manusha were getting into trouble. And not only that, I myself had a very interesting Dhaka journey, which I won't go into now. It's a lot of stuff, but beautiful. You know, some of the best friends I have now are from that era. And I left Dhaka in 2015 again to come back to US for various reasons. One was যে ঢাকার যে বিউটিটা আমার খুব এখনো ভাল লাগে, এই মানসুনে আমি সারা জীবন ওখানে থাকতে পারি, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। সো বাট ওইটার সাথে সাথে ঢাকার এয়ারটাকে, I think I told Sabir this once, it's like a jello, you know. ঢাকা এন্টার করা মানে তোমার বাকি আমি কিছু মনে থাকতো না আমার। ঢাকাতে আসার পরে you like the outside world seems very far away. The air we breathe is not necessarily air. It's almost like a half solid thing, you know, because we're so close to each other and we're so emotional as a jati, and আমাদের informal love, it's like a thickness, you know, and ওই thicknessটা আমরা একে অপরের energy exchange সারাক্ষণ চলছে একটা জেলোর মতো একটা। I look at Dhaka as a jello and we're all in the jello. So এই জেলোটা, and if you're a sensitive soul, which I think all of you are, and you know, you start to realize how much of this jello is sticking on me. And sometimes if you are not necessarily in your brightest and your best, it can get you down. And I think we all have phases in this in Dhaka. We go, right? And it depends on what's happening in our personal life or around us, whatever it might be. So oita was getting to me a bit, and also my mom, our bhai, America. And although I was in my 30s by then, they were getting a little worried to me. And so in the meantime, you know, I was writing. I was a columnist in Daily Star. I was doing different sort of publications and other sort of, you know, couple of Indian books, and then একটা বই publish হলো, a non-fiction. So এগুলো চলছিল, আর USAID এর project full দামে চলছিল, because that was my security. যে হ্যাঁ উনি তো এনজিও আপা, you know, so ওনাকে তো like উনি একা থাকেন, ওনার ওইরকম মানুষ। হ্যাঁ, so I had to pick up an identity to live that life. So I left in 2015 for these kind of reasons. I'm saying it in a very vague manner, but I think you understand hopefully the gist. যখন 2015 আমি ফেরত আসলাম আমেরিকাতে, আবারও ডিসিতে with a job, I really fell into a depression. It was really weird. It's like I couldn't figure out who I was anymore. Like all this time I had this mission in life, you know, প্রত্যেকটা age, sorry about this noise, একবার ছিল, you know, like say 15, whatever it was, I had to make my life something. I had this big trauma of my dad. And by the way, I was still carrying my father with me. You know, he was still a big presence in my life. Like nothing, I never left it. He was there. I couldn't let it go. Perhaps he wanted to leave, but I couldn't let it go. So that was, it had been like 22 years by then. Yeah, so তখনও এরকম. And, but ঢাকা ছাড়ার পরে এই সব কিছু ফেরত আসার পরে ডিসিতে, it wasn't like last time যখন ছিলাম ডিসিতে যে লাদিদা লাইটনেস মাইন্ড বডি, you know, yoga, American yoga. It was like, who am I? I've had now an identity that really was more than 75% of me in Bangladesh. That is who I am. Yet আমি বাঙালি কি, মানে বাঙালি আমেরিকান, আমি সিটিজেনশিপের কথা ভাবছি না, বা আমি ওগুলো কথা ভাবছি না। As a person, I couldn't figure out আর কোথায় ফিট করবো। পুরানো বন্ধুর সাথে একই রকম লাগছিল না ডিসিতে, কাজেও সেরকম একটা আনন্দ পাচ্ছিলাম না। And there was this sense of loss in general of something. In the meantime, ওখানে ফেরত যাওয়ার আগে, spirituality right now for me is really the thing that leads me forward, and that's what has led me to where I am. So this is my third defining story. And this goes into this sort of awakening that started happening with the depression. So this falling into the abyss has some benefits. It's like the diving thing. You go in, you're really scared, but you might hit a space where you go up again and you're like, yeah, okay, let me dig deep again. So I kept on doing that. I kept on digging deep, getting sad, coming up, but I was sort of in the low more. সেই সময় আমাকে একজন ভদ্রমহিলা, she's Bengali also, she lives in Canada, and she's a beautiful woman. She told me there's this thing called Vipassana. I don't know if you've heard about Vipassana. I don't think Bangladeshe কয়েকজন করেছে. Anusha has done it. A few others have done it, I know. Vipassana is this Buddhist meditation that you go in. It's all over the world, centers আছে. You go in for 10 days, and প্রথম দিনে রাতের বেলা you take a vow of silence. 10 দিন কোনো কথা বলবে না. And you meditate for 10 hours a day. সকাল 4:30টার সময় ঘুম থেকে উঠতে হবে, রাত 9টায় ঘুমাতে যাবে, সকালে একবার ব্রেকফাস্ট 4টার সময়, একবার লাঞ্চ 11:30টার সময়, a small tea fruit thing at 5. That's it. You're basically fasting after that until the next day, and you're meditating, and they're teaching you what this meditation technique is. It's not a lot of talking. It's just instructions. You do it, and there's a teacher. If you have questions about the technique, you ask the teacher. So it's rather simple. প্রতিদিন রাতে 1 ঘন্টা করে একটা discourse থাকে on Buddhism. And not Buddhism. Buddhism is the wrong word. It's not religious. Buddha's teaching is what I should say about the technique itself. But it was something that was very strange. So all this time I had this mind-body thing, and I had developed this personality between the mind and body. But there was this other thing that was always there, and I called it my mon. But it's more than the mon, right? Because there's levels of the mon. There is a physical mind, there is the mental mind. Mon, I should say. Mind is not the translation of mon, but jai ho, ota. But there is another mon that's even more deep, even more you, and it's kind of like your compass and your guide, but we don't necessarily go in there all the time. So what Vipassana did for me and whoever took it at that time, it polishes that whole thing, and it just imagine it as a compass, and it just makes your compass like, okay, now this is pointing north and south and east and west, so ওই জিনিসটা it really did. And what happens is you প্রথম 3.5 দিন you're just observing your breath, your natural breath all day. It's like doing a surgery of your mind. So obviously mind goes there, but finally it comes back. Your senses become very sharpened, and then once it becomes very sharpened, you notice there are sensations all over your body. 4th day they teach you Vipassana, which is basically you start from the top of your head, you go to your toes, you take each piece of your body and you sense what's happening there. There's burning, there's sweat, there's this, there's that, there's da. And once you get into it, you realize, oh my God, আমি আমার জীবনের সব অভিজ্ঞতা, সব ফিলিংস, সব কষ্ট, দুঃখ, ভালোবাসা আমার সাথেই ক্যারি করে যাচ্ছি. And these things are coming up, and it sounds crazy, but it's true. And there are things I've forgotten, I've suppressed, that just popped up. There are things I'm very happy to find. There were things which I was like, oh, etai chilo ekhane, ei koshto niye eta, আমার ব্যথা করে এই হাতটা. There were things like that, and there were things which I couldn't really know what it was. And the whole point was you have to stay equanimous. So kono rokomer, don't go like, I'm so sad or I'm so happy, but sort of observe, right? Witness, and don't get stuck anywhere. So say you're sensing something and you're loving the sensation somewhere on your face, you can't stay there. You feel it, you go on, you move on, you don't stay there forever. So that's this impermanence of how quickly we change our mind, our feelings, these things, as soon as they're noticed, some of them leave you, and how we make up stories, how we create stories, the story that we live in, that became very apparent. So certain conditioning and stories that I was living fell off. It just left. I realized আমি কি করছিলাম, মানে আমরা সবাই কি করি. And I realized যে, that Shakespearean যে all the world is a stage. So I was like, it's true. Like that was one of the realizations. And you can't read and write, obviously, during this time. So I had to remember these things. It was really hard. And there's no cell phone or laptop. So so it was like, yes, the world is a stage, but we are not in a theater. It's an interactive theater. You're not always on stage and you're always performing. You do get off the stage. So it's not always about you. You don't have to live like it's a movie. You don't have to prove to anybody anything, to anybody. And that was a huge thing, because there was that pressure of heroism I talked about from that young age, that defining sort of thing. It's like, oh, we must prove. So হঠাৎ করে ওটা মনে হলো it's okay, maybe I don't have to do that. And there was a lot of processing with my father also. I finally was able to let there be peace between that feeling. And then I realized আমি যে কাজ করে আসছি, development, you guys all know about international development stuff. You have projects and you go to field and you think you have saved the world, but you really haven't. You haven't changed much, but you have to report and say you have. So I was really disenchanted by it, especially after being in the field for 5 years, 5 6 years. So I was like, I'm a very humanitarian কাজ করব এখান থেকে বের হয়ে। I was like, what's the purpose of life? Again, going back to Lucky's words in my 20s, I actually started looking at the purpose of life. And I felt the purpose of life was to give to others. That was the best thing you can do. I'm not married. I don't have children. So যারা ওইরকম একটা সংসার করে তাদের জন্য immediately you have others to give, but আমার জন্য I can give to whoever I want. So that's how I was going to find my worth. It sounds noble, but there's a lot of insecurity in this, by the way, because you're again your happiness is dependent on another person's happiness, even if it's a big cause. And we never think like that about givers, like about philanthropists, but it's there. There is a bit of pleasure that's maybe not as clean as it's secure. So I thought আমি এখন আর ডেভেলপমেন্ট করব না, আমি এখন হিউম্যানিটেরিয়ান কাজ করব। যাদের একেবারেই দরকার, আর্জেন্ট নিডে আছে যারা, তাদের সাথে কাজ করব। যাদের খাবার নাই, and যাদের they're in insecurity of some sort, the women who have been raped, etc. etc. So luckily I actually got an opportunity like that really quickly in crisis response, and it was with Nigeria. This is the office, but Nigeria jete hoto. It was the Boko Haram crisis in the north. So suddenly from it age porjonto I was quite superficial. I wanted to be like, beshi stress nitam, but I cared about like a little bit of the gloss also. I had to really drop it. It was like, I'm going really into the deep of this. I better ask for forgiveness from people I've wronged, because they're suicide bombers. I might die. And somehow I felt it's okay. I'm jachi. And I did. I went twice and realize that it's not a joke. And even there, the urgent help you're giving, are they, yes, they're dependent on it, but তুমি just একটা মানুষ doing this, ওখানে কিন্তু তোমার মতো অনেক মানুষ আছে। আর I was also thinking, যারা ওখানে মিট করবো তারা নিশ্চয়ই খুব evolved beings. Some of them have given their life for this. This is all they do. My boss was like that. And he has been to every crisis that you can imagine, but then I realized না, সবার মধ্যেই ভালো খারাপ থাকে, সবার মধ্যে একটা থাকে। And not only that, এই টাইপের জিনিসগুলোতে অনেক একটা you start becoming kind of self-righteous also, and you start looking down on everybody. কি করো? Never mind. Like আমি তো মানুষ সেভ করে বেড়াই, আমি তো খাবার দেই যাদের খাবার নাই, that kind of a thing comes in. And if that doesn't come in, wonderful, you do start to internalize pain in a different manner. You pick up, I'm not talking about everybody, these are the negatives I saw of this, that's all I'm talking about, that I could have been prone to. And you pick up habits like smoking pot or drinking more than you should, or blah, 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 because you're coping is, and these places are always in not a very beautiful space. Like Cox's Bazar is very nice actually compared to this other place which I went to next, but কি করবা তুমি, এরকম তোমার কারফিউ সারাদিন থাকে রাতের পরে, তুমি খালি মদই তো খাবা না কি ফেরত এসে কোয়ার্কারদের সাথে, you're gonna have weird relationships with everybody, stuff like that. So I was doing that, but then suddenly and I was also traveling a lot. I started solo traveling, and I went to South America, Africa, blah blah blah, অনেক কিছু করলাম টরলাম, এই মাঝখানে হচ্ছিল অনেক কিছু. And then the Rohingya refugee crisis started, and the Vipassana was continuing, by the way. So আমি এরপরে আরো দুবার I went, that did 3 more comments altogether. I've done 4 courses of this 10 days. So every year I would go clean my head, basically, like আমার যেতে হবে, and every day I would sit for 1 hour to 2 hours, and এখনো I continue. So that I couldn't live without, because I decided that whatever I wanted to grab in the day was much better of a grab if I had sat down for that hour. So it became a part of that compass fixing. Anyway, so আমি তারপর Rohingya refugee crisis join করলাম with BRAC, and it was the first response time, and it was first 6 months, and ওই 6 মাস was also very intense. And I think maybe all of you must know at least one person who have been now working there. And you've heard stories, so I will not go into that because already it was really tough. It takes a toll, especially seeing little children who are just destroyed at the age of 5. So oigular pore, I was turning 40 that year, to 2018. My father died at 40, so আমার মাথার মধ্যে 40 বছরটা একটা খুব লাল দাগে আঁকা, 40. And I thought, আমি যদি 40 বছর বাঁচতে পারি, that's enough. And when I was turning 40, I thought, what have I said? I of course want to live more. So I was, and I was finishing up this project, and I resigned after 6 months, and I said, I'm going to go and work on this novel I've been talking about. And also, as I was getting deeper into the spiritual life, I needed more and more time to give myself, to figure out what else was there, which is like, to others might be nothing, because আমি কোনো কিছু accomplish করছি না, আমি কারোর জন্য কাজ করছি না, আমি শুধু নিজের সাথে সারাদিন সময় কাটাচ্ছি. But I wanted to do that. So আমার যখন আমি ছিলাম ওখানে, and so this continues. A lot of reading, a lot of studies were going on also on the side for me, of focused on spirituality. Intuition was higher. I trusted myself more with decisions. I used to have really indecision was a big part of my life before ota kome gelo with this meditation. And I met a journalist from Al Jazeera while I was in this crisis, in Rohingya crisis. And I asked him, আমি ডিসিতে ফেলতে যাচ্ছিলাম না, because America didn't feel like the space for me anymore, and Trump was in DC also. So I was like, I'll go to India. I've always wanted to live in India for whatever reason. It might have been this pre-47 টান হতে পারে, আমি অনেকবার এসেছি এখানে, কখনো থাকিনি. So I wanted to stay a bit, like 4 মাস, and আমি কাজ না করে I could live on my savings. India was affordable. Bangladesh, I didn't want to stay, because Bangladesh লেখা টেখা আমার জন্য হবে না, লম্বা কিছু, it's like শুরু করবো, but then something else will pull me and I'll go into that jello hole, so so my friend, I asked him for Goa, and he told me, he said, আচ্ছা আমাকে 2 দিন সময় দাও, অনেক ঘোরে. So then 2 দিন পরে he sent me a picture of a place in Pondicherry, where I am now, and by the beach. Bay of Bengal is here, like 1 block from my place actually, so it's by the ocean, choto ekta shahor. And I saw it, it looked perfect, and I said, okay, yes. So আমি হ্যাঁ বলে দিলাম. 2018 April mashe, first I went and did my 10 days in Chennai, another Vipassana course, and then I came to Pondicherry, not knowing anybody, nothing, sort of moved into this place, and I bumped into a book of the mother. Now this is going to get a little more crazy, because আমাদের বাংলাদেশিরা আমরা খুব একটা এগুলা নিয়ে পাত্তা দিই না আমার মনে হয়, আমি নিজেই হয়তো মানেটা কি এটা এরকম করতাম আগে. And so এই জায়গাটার সবচেয়ে বড় strength হচ্ছে, besides the beautiful ocean and by the sea, this French Tamil little city, the light comes from Sri Aurobindo and the mother. It's it's an ashram here. So, which, it's not all of it is not an ashram, but the ashram is there, and যারা এখানে আসে তাদের মধ্যে, তারা না জেনে আসলেও তাদের মধ্যে কোনো কিছু একটা থাকে, like some pull for something, there's people who end up staying here are not looking for money. No one is very rich here. I mean, there are rich people, but আমাদের দেশের মতো বা যে কোনো বড় সিটি যেরকম তুমি মানুষজন পাবা, এখানে মানুষ কয়েকটা like money hungry না, career hungry না, they're in a different trip completely. আমি এগুলো জানতাম না. It's not a hippie town also. It's not like তুমি দেখবা যে বালি টালিতে যেরকম ঘুরে বেড়াচ্ছে, ওরকমও না. Interesting. Very internal, সবাই নিজের মধ্যে. So I was very fascinated, because I also wanted to live that life. I was already sort of in that periphery, and so I went to the ashram একদিন পরে, and I started reading this book, which really hit me. I don't know if you've ever read anything or seen anything যেটা এত বেশি honest, and that cuts through you so much that you're scared. You're like, আমি এটা নিতে পারবো না. কিছু কিছু মুভি থাকে না এরকম, you're like, it's too honest, not necessarily violent or anything, but just something where you're like, why is this written like this, So এরকম ছিল ফিলিংটা আমার জন্য, but I couldn't stop reading it. And this is really where I have So এর আগে প্রত্যেক মাসে আমি কোথাও না কোথাও যেতাম. I have this, nomadic life from what you probably gathered already. Here with this place, I actually found, I always wanted a third country where I could call home, and now I've been here for 2 years. And this is where I finished the draft of the novel, and now it's still working into the nth draft. God knows where it will go. Here is where I have sort of found, without even, I don't even know how, but that there is something bigger than us, and sort of that belief of the faith, and also letting go of many conditioning. And one of the biggest thing of Sri Aurobindo for me is there is a map here. It's the spiritual map of India, and it brings together all of everything: Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal. It's just a big map. And according to him, this is what it was supposed to be. None of us are very different from each other. And he was very much against the 47 partition and all of that. And there are writings about, so everything I was writing about, this novel was about, of course, my past of trauma, my family of the war and etc. The second hand experience. It was exactly his a lot of his work is about that you must heal before you can heal anyone else. And it's not that you're healing just oneself. You automatically will help others, because the way we are programmed, things do not always stay with yourself. It actually continues. It can change more, not even by communicating verbally, but it will happen. So this kind of a thought. So I'm deep into it now. I work for the Ashram Press. I copy edit books for them. I have been taking different courses here about flowers and flower remedies and how people heal through flowers. Ashram is a huge part of my life. I read a lot. I have 4 cats. One of them came in pregnant and she had babies. Nobody wanted them. So I have 4 cats now. And it's a life that I cannot explain how quiet and without purpose in some ways it is, in terms of if you compare it to the first world life or the life of my friends in Bangladesh, or, it's like there's no money making. I've been lucky somehow to still be okay without making working to make money, but it's been very intense and busy. I don't know how time goes here. And I also teach kids creative process, and I teach English to adults here at this ashram school. And that's kind of where I am. And finally I can say যে লাস্টে যেটা বলবো যে আগে ভাবতাম যে একটা কিছু, এখনো আমার মধ্যে এটা আছে যে নভেলটা পাবলিশ করা is a big deal for me. I don't know how that will happen, but if I don't become a hero, it's okay. And that's kind of been where I am now. It's like you don't have to be a hero, and that pressure, that sort of taking that out of my equation has really helped settle for me. And I think a lot of us in Bangladesh carry that, and maybe if you happen to become a hero, wonderful. And if you don't, it's okay. It's good if you're happy. So that's my story for now.